there, listeners. Are you feeling the weight of the world? Well, you're not alone. The U.S. Surgeon General says nearly 50% of parents are overwhelmed by stress. And guess what? It's affecting us all. Just last year, we heard about an epidemic of loneliness hitting half our population, especially young adults. But there's hope. I'm Scarlett Lewis, founder of the Choose Love movement. We're dedicated to your safety, health, and well-being with proactive mental health strategies. Imagine a life where stress and loneliness are replaced by joy and connection. We've already reached millions with essential life skills to prevent violence, substance abuse, and mental illness. Want to join this life-changing movement? It's easy. Visit chooselovemovement.org today. Become a member, spread the word, and access our free resources. Together, we can create a loving, supportive community. Remember, all the nurturing, healing love you give comes back to you tenfold. Thank you for choosing love.
I choose love. I choose love. Hey, hey. Hey, 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 oh.
The Choose Love movement offers no-cost solutions that keep our kids safe, providing them with the skills and tools they need to flourish. Join us in our mission to create the world we want to live in, one that's connected and compassionate. Check us out at chooselovemovement.org. Together, we can choose love.
Hey everyone, it's Scarlett Lewis. I am the founder of the Choose Love movement. Welcome to the Choose Love podcast. As always, I have really cool guests that help us as human beings, as educators, as parents, and we have a lot going on in our world these days. In fact, I just saw the U.S. Surgeon General released a report on parents saying about half of our parents are so overwrought with stress that they can hardly function. And so I'm actually mentioning that because the two ladies that I'm going to be speaking to today, Erika and Veronica, actually have a incredible technique that I am a huge fan of, that they bring into classrooms, they do with themselves. It can benefit everyone, and it's so simple and easy. It's called havening. You've heard me talk about it before, but we're going to talk about what this looks like in the classroom, how as educators you can bring this in the classroom, use it with yourself, use it with your students, pay it forward to parents, and all be on the same page and really find a lot of benefit. So thank you so much, Veronica and Erika, for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So Erika Neal and Veronica Bovenzi. Veronica, you're in Canada. Erika, you're a practitioner of havening in Virginia. And you all met as practitioners of havening. I know that you have written 2 books. One of the books is for kids, Auntie Rosa's Magic Hugs. And it's such a perfect title. And you're going to see why, because havening is kind of like a magic hug. And then one for teens, Safe to Be Me. And I want to just start off right off the bat that this is one of my favorite trauma techniques, havening. I was introduced to it not too long ago, actually, and I've actually received professional havening treatment myself. I use it. It's incredibly powerful, and I'm really happy to have you all here. Thanks for joining me.
Sure.
Yeah. So who do you guys want to share your havening journey? Like, how did you get here? Why are you havening specialists? Why did you choose this trauma technique? Who wants to go first?
Erika.
Erika?
Okay.
Yes.
So I've been a therapist, a trauma therapist for about 18 years, and I was doing EMDR and other methods. I heard about havening in a psychology webinar, and I immediately loved it because it's very easy and approachable. Just as a side note, havening consists of soothing touch to the hands, the arms from shoulder to elbow and the face, like you're massaging yourself in those places. And those places of touch produce oxytocin, serotonin, calm brain waves almost immediately. And so when I learned about it, I felt immediately better while doing it. And I also learned that it can help change encoding of trauma to make it less distressing and to actually heal people from feeling traumatized, panicked, and other unpleasant feelings. And I started to use it immediately. I got trained at the next possible training in it. I loved it so much I wanted to become a trainer in it. And so havening is a wonderful way of calming oneself. So even as we're talking, if you all want to try doing this, you can rub your hands together back and forth. You can do it horizontally or vertically. You can rub your arms from shoulder to elbow in a downward sweep like you're petting a cat. And you can rub your face like you're washing your face. And simply by doing this, you can soothe your own nervous system. You can help regulate yourself. And
You
then
know what
also,
I love about this,
yes,
Erica? It's like
yes,
what you would do anyway. You know, if you're sitting in a situation, a stressful situation, what would you do? You would rub your hands together. You might rub your shoulders, give yourself a hug. You might put your face in your hands. And it's kind of interesting that you do this naturally. And that is what helps soothe. These are self-soothing actions that you would already do, but we're doing them intentionally for that effect.
exactly. Exactly. And that's why we like to teach it to children, because it's something they can start doing from a young age to soothe themselves. And you can also do it from one person to another in a safe environment. So, for example, parents to children, parents can haven their children. Therapists haven their clients when permitted. You can use it to help another person feel good, and you can use it to help heal a person, like a counselor can help direct a child to do havening to make themselves feel better.
But the thing is, like, you don't necessarily have to have professional training in order to do this. Like a teacher does this anyway, but just to make it more intentional, if you see a child in distress, you would go over to the child, you would most likely touch them on the shoulder and maybe give them a few rubs down the outside of their arm. And doing that is actually stimulating the release of these neurochemicals in your brain that help calm your nervous system. And so teachers can use this, and it doesn't have to be done by a therapist or a professional, correct?
That's true. You can actually just model it for the child and do it with them. You can also do it with a classroom when you're doing a lesson and you're helping them memorize something. You can actually help guide them to do it too. It can be done on themselves. Yes.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I'm doing it now because it feels good. You know, you actually feel the effects. And I always think even that, for a child to have a technique that they can use that gives them relief.
Absolutely.
And that is, you know, that's what tapping does, emotional freedom technique.
Mhm.
That's what havening does. I was such a fan of havening that we actually put lessons in for the kids in elementary, middle, and high school into the Choose Love curriculum, because I thought this is amazing. I remember going into right after the tragedy, we had people that came down to Haven, anybody in the town that wanted it. It was really incredible. And actually that's where I met Shannon Desilets, who went on to become a New Hampshire ambassador working out of Governor Sununu's office. And she's gotten Choose Love into almost every school in New Hampshire, which is really amazing. She now works for the Department of Health and Human Services and prisons all over, getting Choose Love in there. So I'm talking about Shannon and her team were havening on us. And I remember my older son, who was 12 years old, not really that interested in trauma help at the time. And he was able to lay on a table with a video game and, you know, get some work done on him without him having to think about it. He didn't have to talk about it. There was nothing that he had to say. All he had to do was be, and he got relief, which was really beautiful.
Yes. It's incredibly easy and helpful to do. Yeah.
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 So that's your story. And Veronica, what's your story?
Well, my story, I just heard what you said about your son, not needing to vocalize, to say how he was feeling or remember things and getting better. And that's the reason why I got interested in Havening, because I am a hypnotist, certified hypnotist. And I started working with all ages, but I got interested in working with children. And I realized that sometimes children need different approaches, different ways to talk about what's going on in their life. So I looked for other tools to help them, and I got certified in EFT. And I found that EFT also helped, but children always have to talk. The more details you give about the situation that is bothering you in EFT, the better you feel after. But it's still talking about how you're feeling. And I have 3 teenagers at home, and one of them was a little troubled in the past few years. So I was asking her, how do you feel? And she said, I don't know. Are you feeling okay? No. But how are you feeling? I don't know. So I said, oh my goodness, I cannot help my own daughter talk about things. How can I help other children? That's when I heard about Havening, and that it can be content free and still help you. That's what really got me interested in it, and how to use it with everyone, but mostly with young people. When they're not able to talk, even they don't even know how they're feeling. That's what used to really scare me about these young people, because they don't feel well, but they have no idea what they're feeling. And with Havening, they don't need to know. They just have to get in touch with how badly or yucky they're feeling, whatever they want to express it, and haven, and then they're going to feel fine. So that is really what made me fall in love with Havening, with this kind, with the young people I like to work with. So,
I mean, so many people are going to resonate with that, having kids that are either having behavioral issues or, are saying that they don't feel good, but they don't really know what's wrong, and parents don't know what to do. We know that anxiety is, I say, like, if COVID was a pandemic, anxiety is a super, super, super pandemic, because there's there's not a word that describes something that's wider spread than that. And, what can kids do other than go on medication? And there's so many side effects to medication that are deleterious to the kids. And if you can give them a technique that can help them find relief themselves, it's so empowering. And like you said, it not only do you not have to talk about the issue, but you can actually even distract the kid or yourself by counting backwards, singing a little song. You really don't have to go into the pain. You just haven, and it takes care of itself, which is just mind-boggling. It's such a gift.
Exactly. And sometimes I started working on myself about 20 years ago. Now I'm in my 50s. So in my 30s, I still didn't know how I was feeling. I thought I was always feeling sad, but then I realized my sadness, but really I was angry at situation. And so I learned in my 30s to really realize what I was feeling, so that, the technique is also very, very useful for adults who have no idea, they're feeling frustrated, they're feeling, but we have a lot of emotions. But for me, I would always go to sadness. I'm sad because he's not behaving well. I'm sad. I was really angry, but I had no idea I was, because of not cultural conditioning, like you never have to be angry at people, you be nice, so all these things really came up with Havening. And even I was able to really put a name for me, being now a woman, an adult. But so it's, many people don't get really in touch with their own feelings, and I was one of them. That's why I can say. And
not only in touch with their feelings, but are, may not have, unless you were taught, the emotional intelligence. In other words, the ability to identify, label, manage, express emotions. And I'm saying that about myself because I certainly didn't. I know that the researcher Brene Brown, she's a well-known author. She's a social scientist researcher out of the University of Houston. She did a study and she found that the vast majority of people only could label 3 emotions, and that was happy, sad, and mad, even though there are 2,000 labels.
Mhm.
Then in subsequent research, she found that when you don't have the emotional intelligence to be able to identify what you're feeling, it actually impacts your experience. And so, you know, that of course is really important to start teaching our kids and ourselves that. I learned it through creating the Choose Love program, honestly, because my parents didn't have those skills and tools. I didn't learn it in school. I didn't learn it in a lifetime of working. So I basically had to pretty much teach myself in this journey of trying to get from tragedy back to joy where I was. That was the word in my head. I knew that, and I knew that's where I wanted to go. But I think that, you know, to have something that not only do you not have to talk about what happened, the painful thing, and you may not even have the words to talk about it. You may not even know what you feel. You have this technique that can help you feel better regardless. And you can even distract if somebody's very upset. You have them count, you have them sing, and they can distract themselves, and still it works. It's so amazing.
The main thing is all you need to do is notice how you're feeling. You don't even have to know exactly what it is. It might be a combination of feelings. You just notice it. You start the touch, and then you distract yourself on purpose by naming items and categories, counting, humming, doing other things. So you're not thinking about it. And miraculously, it actually heals what you were upset about without even dwelling on it. It's amazing.
It kind of sounds too good to be true, I have to say. However, there is so much research on it. I was so fascinated that I actually introduced myself to the brothers, the twin brothers, the doctors that created it, and have become friends with them because it just blows my mind. And I knew that I wanted to work with havening, and it just made so much sense because we're in schools and we're with parents, and that's exactly where it needs to be. There's so much benefit in havening with emotional regulation. It helps to improve focus. And of course, the number one thing that everybody's thinking about is safety. It actually helps your environment to be safer as well. And so Erika, you want to kind of talk about what this looks like? You have a practice, but you also work in school. So what does this look like when you go into a school?
Okay, so we started an organization called Humanitarian Havening, and part of it is the Havening in Schools program. We have a website, Humanitarian Havening. In the Havening in Schools program, what we do is we go in and we teach the teachers and counselors how to do havening. We meet with them in a smaller group. We have them experience havening with distractions. We have them bring up a feeling in haven and hum and sing and talk about other things. And then they notice the change in the progression. And then we talk about ways they can use it in the classroom, such as when they're teaching a lesson or when the kids come in from a transition, like in the morning when they're a bit more activated, or after recess or gym, and how they can use havening to help the students get calm and focused. We use affirmational havening by saying words like focused, calm, confident, strong to help the kids get into good mindset. We also tell them how to use havening with individual kids or small groups of kids that are going through a hard time, how they can model the use of havening and have the child describe what's going on while they're talking. Say, hey, why don't you just haven, move your hands around while you're feeling upset? And then, hey, can you tell me about something you did over the weekend that might have been fun, or what's your favorite music group, and get them distracted so that they feel better. So we find different ways that the kids can incorporate and the teachers can incorporate havening into their school day.
So do you have any stories, individual stories of how havening has impacted kids, to kind of give an example of a situation where you above and beyond what you just said, where you would use maybe with a child that is experiencing trauma or some other sort of loss or difficulty?
I've had teachers tell me that when they have a kid that's upset, they've taken them aside and have them just start doing havening touch while they're talking about what's bothering them. And they notice the kids immediately get down-regulated. They feel much better after just a short period of time. We've done it with kids that are having trouble starting doing their homework. They get very anxious about how well are they going to do in their homework. And we encourage them to do havening and humming before they begin. I've had my own children, when they're nervous about test taking, to do havening beforehand, and even thinking of a time when they felt confident. Like my son's a drummer, thinking about a time when he was in marching band, feeling very confident and saying confident, confident, confident while havening. So these are examples that can be easily used in schools. Veronica, do you have any examples too?
Yeah, well, I'm using it a lot on preschoolers. For them is when they get those, I don't say tantrum, it's more like crying spells, you know, when they come and you have no idea what's going on. And I use it together with breathing. Here in Quebec, they use already a lot the breathing, like blow the candles on the cake and, you know, all those little tricks for little children to teach them how to breathe. And so I usually haven them. And I realized that the time for them to come back to calm are almost half if compared to breathing alone. So that is something that I'm using a lot just because I work with young children. And I've used it also for a little group of, they're more teenagers that were going through a very huge and comprehensive French test. I'm in the French part of Canada. And they had so much anxiety about it, and we were havening for a week before the test every night, making them imagine that they were in the classroom taking the test and havening and distracting them. And they really told me they had almost no anxiety at all when they got to the test. So it's really little things, but you know, not little things. It's like I'm doing experiments a little bit for more typical situation, like more how do you say, targeted situations, but it always has the results that we hope for. So it's
I mean, it's really incredible in how many ways that we can use it. Erika, you just said something. You said havening and humming.
Yes.
So what's the humming thing?
So humming is good for the vagus nerve. It helps us self-attune and self-regulate. When we hum, it's actually even better than singing, but singing is pretty good too. So we haven and hum like a familiar, comforting song, like Row, Row Your Boat, for example, and that helps us self-regulate. Yeah. And yeah, even moving around and dancing while you're havening, you're self-attuning while you're havening, and you're having fun, and you're pairing soothing with fun. It's all good. It goes together well.
My mom makes signs. So my mom has a little antique store and she sells them whistle, sing, hum. That is her thing. That's her little phrase, whistle, sing, hum. So she thinks those things lead to feeling better, calming down, being happy. And then that's the pathway to joy. Whistle, sing, hum. So I've heard that my whole life. And
She's ahead of her time.
Yeah, well, she definitely was in so many different ways. Yeah, and I think it's so important to remind, and then I kind of want to touch on parents as well, because we've been talking about how to implement this into classrooms. And then of course those teachers go home, and we have parents of kids that are listening here today. And we know the state of parenting based on the U.S. Surgeon General report, that a lot of parents are struggling with stress. And by the way, if you're listening and you are, obviously you're in very good company. And there is a lot to be stressed out over, you know, out there. I just gave a talk in New Jersey about this report and putting stress into perspective, because you know, a lot of it starts in our heads and how we perceive a situation. And but you know, unless you have some of that knowledge, which by the way, I didn't until I was drop kicked out of my comfort zone and created Choose Love as a way to be part of the solution to everything that's going on today. But having little golden nuggets like that, like everything starts with a thought, and the thought can be changed. Our perception can be changed of different situations. So, and little things that we can do, like humming during the day. Humming, I do that all the time because I think my mom did that. And you're right, it does regulate the vagus nerve, and it does help regulate going forward. You're kind of resetting your nervous system when you're doing that. So how does this look for parents when they bring it into the home?
Do you want to start with that, Veronica?
Yeah, I can start it
right.
because I'm one of those moms
Yes. Okay.
that, I have the tools I need now, but still life can get stressing. Being a single mom or a mom, not a single mom, you have children that have their own needs, you have your own needs, and everything seems to be so overwhelming. And havening for me has helped. Well, it was not havening at the time, but techniques that help you calm down. It was EFT when my kids were younger.
Mhm.
And I still do it now when I feel overwhelmed. Instead of starting like nagging my kids and start screaming about how messy the house is and everything, I just go to my room and I start havening. I haven, and I start distracting myself, thinking about a nice vacation, something that really takes me away from where I am at the moment. And I feel better. And when I do that, when I open the door of my room, my kids know that I'm a calmer mom. I'm still going to tell them that they can put away their stuff and not leave everything in the living room, but in a nicer way. And I feel better about myself. I feel better, being the mother I always wanted to be. Because when I didn't know these techniques, I have 3 children, but one of them is overreactive. And with her, we used to get into not fights, but she would start screaming or saying stuff, and I would scream at her and she would scream louder and I would scream even louder, and it was just never-ending stress. And I don't have that anymore. Now, she still sometimes make her a little drama, but I just don't react, or I just go to my room. If I feel like reacting, I calm myself and I come out, and she's calmer, and the whole atmosphere in the house has changed. But it started with me. I had to do something because, she still continued, without her tantrums, but they could last half an hour, and then it became 20 minutes. And, now she's almost 18. She doesn't do that anymore, but I could see how they became shorter and shorter, and then they stopped. So it really starts from us.
And do you credit havening with that change?
I credit, I cannot tell havening. I just learned havening 2 years ago. So now it's mostly havening, but having a technique. Today we're talking about havening. It was EFT before, but knowing techniques that help ourselves, parents, get calmer, it changes the whole atmosphere in the house. And it's also, how the mirror neurons work. So if the child is having a crisis and you are in front of them, showing them how you can remain calm, you engage their mirror neurons, meaning that they see us being calm and then become calmer. It's something that we have when we see someone getting excited in any situation, we get excited too. And the same thing is when you're calm and you show mostly a kid or anyone who's being aggressive or highly nervous, you show them that you can stand in front of them or sit in front of them being calm. They will naturally start coming down.
Rise above. I choose love.
Hey there, listeners. Are you feeling the weight of the world? Well, you're not alone. The U.S. Surgeon General says nearly 50% of parents are overwhelmed by stress. And guess what? It's affecting us all. Just last year, we heard about an epidemic of loneliness hitting half our population, especially young adults. But there's hope. I'm Scarlett Lewis, founder of the Choose Love movement. We're dedicated to your safety, health, and well-being with proactive mental health strategies. Imagine a life where stress and loneliness are replaced by joy and connection. We've already reached millions with essential life skills to prevent violence, substance abuse, and mental illness. Want to join this life-changing movement? It's easy. Visit chooselovemovement.org today. Become a member, spread the word, and access our free resources. Together, we can create a loving, supportive community. Remember, all the nurturing, healing love you give comes back to you tenfold. Thank you for choosing love.
I choose love. I choose love.
And that's backed up by science, and that, you know, and that coherence. You walk into, we have this energy that expands from our body. That's not woo woo, that's science. And you walk into a room as an educator or a parent and you have high coherence. That means that people will calm down in your presence. You have control over your state. You're not easily angered, and you feel calm, and there's a calming effect on other people. It just makes common sense too. And then, but the opposite is true too. If you walk in and you have low coherence, then you can excite the people in the room just by your presence. So I just wanted to clarify. So for people that are listening and they're not familiar with EFT, emotional freedom technique, or tapping, this is something else, another technique that I absolutely love. And it's really a mix of modern psychology and ancient acupressure. And it's where we also teach this, by the way. We have actually a special program on tapping in the Choose Love movement. That's where you tap on different areas of your face and your upper torso that relate to your amygdala. That's your fear center. And 10 minutes of tapping can reduce your cortisol by 44%. And when you tap, you acknowledge the issue, and then you kind of do this setup statement, and then you turn it around. Like, I am so stressed out, but I love and forgive and accept myself, even though, you know. And so havening is a different version of this. It also works directly with the amygdala. It also reduces cortisol, but there are these kind of self-soothing motions that you do. And of course, you have the issue. Most likely, if you're going to start havening, you're feeling stress or aggravation and frustration. And so you just are going to start. So you're in that feeling, and then you're in the feeling, and then you just start the movements, and then it moves you out of that feeling, which is really incredible. And so starting with yourself as a parent is so important. Yeah, you may have kids that are acting up. I mean, this is something that I learned too late too. You know, it's like if you have a child that has behavioral issues, yeah, you can definitely get your child help, but work on yourself, because most likely you might be part of the problem too. And I know that I'm saying that because I know that I was, and I learned that too late. And you know, all these techniques, of course, it's never too late, but they are so helpful. And you know, if you're yelling, you are not in control. Your fear center is in control. You're in freeze, fight, or flight if you're yelling at your kids, and your message really isn't getting across. And you know, it's so funny because I have 4 dogs, and I had a dog trainer out here the other day, and I have horses, and she was telling me, keep the dogs out of the barn. So they kept coming in, and I was getting angry. I was like, get out. And she's like, you know, your dogs don't hear anger. They don't understand anger. So you need to manage your state and you need to talk from a calm place, and then they'll listen. And it was so interesting. And I did that. And I just related that to kids too. Like kids are not going to be responsive. You start yelling at them, they're going to go right into their freeze, fight, or flight area in their brain. And they're not working from their prefrontal cortex then. The listening, comprehending what you're saying, they're just in survival mode at that point. So a lot depends on the health and well-being of our parents. And so this is such a powerful technique, yes, for the kids, but also for you. And it can change the climate in your household. You could do this in your car I'm a single mom. And that was hard. I picked up my kids at daycare. I had to drop them off in the morning, pick them up at another daycare because it closed later. And then, it was wonderful, but it was also challenging. And, if you're coming home or you're coming into the daycare before you see your child, give yourself a few hugs, like the Auntie Rosa's magic hugs. Give yourself some hugs, do a little bit of havening for 2 minutes before you walk in, and you're going to feel better. And you're just going to have a better reintroduction to your child. Their coherence is going to go up because yours is higher. And you're just, the start to your evening is going to be better. Erika, what do you think about that as a parent?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're all single mothers here. So
Yeah.
I think we have a higher level of stress than the average person, perhaps. But yeah, I do a lot of havening. My whole life is about self-soothing, pretty much. I'm always trying to find ways of calming, and havening is a big part of it. Even if I'm not havening, like you're saying, if I'm driving, I'll do one arm havening. I'll imagine havening continually. I showed it to my children. My children haven themselves when they're upset. My daughter even showed it to a group of friends. She was a counselor at an acting camp, and she showed the whole group how to do havening. They're real believers in it. And when my kids are not feeling good, I haven them. My daughter had a reaction to the COVID vaccine, and she was really sick, vomiting, and she was really upset about being sick. And so I lay down next to her and I started havening her arm and her cheek from one side, and it stopped her symptoms. She felt better. So it's amazing what havening can help with emotional distress, physical distress, anger, anxiety, sadness. It's very good for parenting when you want to soothe your child, and you're teaching them a method to soothe themselves too.
Yeah, as you're modeling this for them, as you're doing it. And by the way, there are many different kinds of self-soothing. Like you can do what I did. I walked in and I poured myself a glass of wine. And, when my kids went to bed, I had another one. And then I might get on the phone and finish the bottle. You know what I mean? Like there are many ways to self-soothe. You can smoke cigarettes, you can get high. You can do other things that have the instant reward, but the long-term benefits are not good for you. I mean, I'm talking about scrolling through your phone too. I mean, it works on the dopamine receptors in your brain, and dopamine is that feel-good neurochemical that kind of mimics a little bit of a runner's high. But the problem with these addictive things that we do, they're short-lived. The pleasure is short-lived. It always leaves you wanting more, and it's never enough. So, we are going to self-soothe. It's funny when you said I self-soothe all the time, and I was thinking, well, everyone does. Everyone does. We do it with food. We do it with, whatever. We're always trying to self-soothe. Obviously, nobody wants to feel bad. We all want to feel good. And that's why our substance abuse problem has continued to get worse, not better, despite the, in America, we had the war on drugs in the 70s, and we spend billions of dollars teaching our kids about drugs. And I have to say this. My son, who I think he must have been 11 years old, he came home one day. This is when I had dinner parties, and I made him sit with us for dinner, and he was bored. And I see him mimicking, injecting something. Like he put a tourniquet on his arm. He pretended, right? He's kind of miming all of this as he's sitting there. Nobody else is watching. I'm watching him though. And I see him turn a little bottle over. He's got what must be a syringe. He's filling it up, He's tapping it like you would. He's tapping his vein. Right. And he's like, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he says, oh, I just had substance abuse awareness class at school. And so now I know what all the drugs are, what the street names are, how to do them, and where to buy them, and how much they are. And I'm thinking at the time, by the way, and this was before Jesse's murder, I'm thinking that we're doing all of this wrong. It's just a passing thought in my mind, right? We are not doing this right. And then, of course, when you could find the results of the substance abuse awareness programs online, and there were actually for a while, they were 0% effectiveness, 0% overall. They may work with some people. I know we tried to scare people, the eggs, this is your drug, brain on drugs, and but that doesn't work either. So we kind of do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Along comes this method called havening, which acts, it's a self-soothing thing. I'm not going to say it acts like a drug, but what it does do, it's a similar effect, right? It gives you relief. It soothes you. It calms down your amygdala, your fear center. It reduces cortisol. Cortisol causes inflammation in your body. Inflammation is the root cause of all disease. And so, definitely I link havening with better mental health, better control of your state, better focus and concentration. And by the way, when I say that, everybody listening out there, there's a thing going around. I don't know how true it is, but with the cell phones, they're saying that our attention span is less than a goldfish. Supposedly a goldfish, I don't know if you guys have heard this, a goldfish's attention span is 12 seconds. Supposedly ours is 9 seconds now. And everything that they're doing for kids and for parents and for all of us is going down in time to bite-sized chunks because that's all that we can handle. And havening helps us improve our focus, improve our concentration, and therefore learning for all ages. It calms our moods and can just generally be a pathway towards happiness and well-being. So anyway, I had to talk about that self-soothing piece because we do it. We all do it. Everybody that's listening knows they have a self-soothing type of thing. Maybe it's candy or whatever it is, but you can replace that with havening. And it works. I mean, literally, like just even if I'm not needing it, if I start to give myself Auntie Rosa's magic hug, I love that name. I love the title of your book for kids. You feel it and it feels good. And that's amazing. And it's good for you.
You could even do it while you're distracting yourself. Because nowadays, I think we use distractions for self-soothing a lot. You can actually haven while you're watching something.
Oh my gosh. Really good point. Like while you put on your Netflix.
Yes. Or a podcast even.
Or a podcast or a Choose Love podcast. Yeah. And these make you feel good anyway. I don't know that you need haven, but you could get a double dose of feel good. Right. And you know what? When you're havening, you're not reaching into the bag of smart food, which is what I like to do, smart food, popcorn, or, eating something, while mindlessly eating while you're watching. No, you're actually doing something that's actually making you more mentally healthy. It's really incredible. Well, so talk to me about your books, and then talk to me about the services that you guys offer.
Okay. Do you go first, Erika, or I do?
Oh, well, okay, I'll do an overview first. So Auntie Rosa's Magic Hugs is a book for children that a parent can read to a child, a librarian. There's a librarian in my local school who reads it.
It should be in every library, by the way.
Yeah,
it really should.
That would be great.
You know what? Our government should be buying these 2 books and putting them in every single library, and it would save them money.
Yeah, yeah, it would be great. So we read those books to kids, and then also the Safe to Be Me book is for teenagers, young adults, and really is actually helpful for most adults too. It's just a quick read. So we've been introducing those on our website, humanitarianhavening.org. There's a link for the books on Amazon and also PDF forms because we're trying to get it out to everybody. We have a page on family havening and a page on havening in schools where those books are. I forgot. Oh, so I'm doing havening in schools. In the United States, I'm also going to be going to Africa soon, and I've been teaching in Africa. I went to Tanzania in January. So I'm doing havening in different places like that. We're also trying to introduce it in places like 12-step meetings, mediation programs, anytime when it helps to put yourself in a soothed state, in a safe place, safe state. We've been trying to introduce that. So I've been doing it that way with humanitarian havening. And then I also have a private practice where I see clients online and help them with treating PTSD, phobias, panic disorder, extenuated grief, and other types of disturbing emotions, using havening as a practitioner, which goes into more depth and uses more techniques than using it on oneself.
That's amazing. I wonder if you would offer a workshop through Choose Love for our educators so that if they have some funding for professional development, maybe they could get some havening through a workshop through Choose Love, and then we could integrate our lessons into what you're teaching them, and you could actually show them how to do that in the classroom.
That'd be great. We'd love to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would too. That's awesome.
Yeah. And Veronica?
Yeah, so well, Erika talked about the books. I have to say that the Auntie Rosa's Magic Cards was also translated into French because I'm a French Canada, and Italian because I'm Italian and I had talked about havening to some Italian friends. So it was a little bit like for my interest, but I like that we have it in 3 languages for now. And so I have a private practice here where I live, and I see clients for, it used to be hypnosis, but now it's mostly havening. And, havening is, you can also have, you can use havening with other techniques, like, you can do hypnosis while havening. So it's really a great modality. But I want to work with families. So what I'm doing now, I'm starting to get in my community, and I want to offer them almost not an emergency kind of thing, but like Zoom meetings or live meetings when parents feel overwhelmed and don't know where to go. Because I used to go see a counselor, a therapist to better manage my child. But then when I was at home with her, I wanted someone to help me. I had no idea who to call. Sometimes I looked at the sky saying, can anybody help me? I needed badly help. So now that's what I want to do. I want to be someone that parents can reach out to. I don't say all the time, but at least twice a day. I'm going to set some time where they can call me and we can have a Zoom meeting to help them if they have an emergency situation with their child, and we can haven, and we can, I can listen to them. And that is what I really want to do, because I want to help many people. I feel that one-on-one, you're helping people, but I would like to reach as many families as I can so that they can really see me as a resource, a person say, I need help, I'm gonna call Veronica, so that we can see the situation as it's happening and find a way for it to be solved. So it's what I would like to do. I'm setting this up now in this moment, but that's what I want to do. Give workshops, but at the same time, tell them I'm available twice a day, open different times depending on the time zones. So it's
well,
really
it seems like that's a timely thing to set up because
yes.
Parents need help.
Yes.
And that is exactly what that U.S. Surgeon General report on parents said. If you guys are interested, you can look that up. You can Google U.S. Surgeon General report on parents, and you can see that so many are struggling. And I totally agree. I wish that I had had a resource like you, Veronica, that I could have reached out to in certain situations instead of having to deal with it myself, or even had this technique myself that could have helped me calm down, gain greater coherence so that I could have offered that or even been a role model. I know, before my whole journey with Choose Love, I did not have a high level of social and emotional intelligence. And that from like even the basically being able to have healthy relationships, I struggled in that field. I'm single. Struggled with managing my own emotions, struggled with making responsible decisions that weren't made out of fear. And, as an adult, and I want to say that because I want to give all the adults that are listening permission, validate you. If you didn't learn these skills and tools at home and or in school, you grow up and you get to have kids and you don't necessarily have them. So that's why we're teaching them in school. But we also have a parent program online, and we have to put havening in there as well, which we haven't done yet. But anyway, so are there any final parting gifts that you would like to leave the readers?
I want to say that there are a lot of free resources on our website, Humanitarian Havening, under the Havening in Schools and the Family Havening part. There are handouts, there are videos, there are podcast links. There are good things there too to look at, and that Veronica and I are both available individually. Our names are our websites, I think. So you can look under for each of us if you want to work with us individually as well.
So all that information is on humanitarianhavening.org.
Yes, and you can also look up Veronica, too.
Okay, and also look up Veronica and her name. We'll have both of your names in the description of the podcast. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I think that there's probably no more important subject that we could cover than helping parents and kids manage stress, anxiety, depression. I mean, this does all of that and more. Helps provide relief in really any situation. And there's a lot of situations that people need to find relief from. It's a healthy way. I 100% endorse it. And so to talk to two practitioners who are both not only using this themselves, but also in schools and training teachers and using it also in private practice is really cool. So thank you very much for joining us. And everybody that's listening, their links will be in the podcast description. Please feel free to reach out. I want to thank everyone and you both as well for choosing love as a thoughtful response. It is our responsibility. Our health, it's up to us. Our children's health, it's up to us. I always say, hey, you think that somebody is going to come and change our communities and our world and the stress levels? They're not. It is up to us. We have to create the world that we want to live in. We have to be the change that we want to see out there. It starts with us first. And so havening and choosing love, such an important place to start, such a perfect start for all of that. We have one life to live. We're all living the dash right now between birth and death. We want to make it the best. We want to be the best versions of ourselves. And this is definitely a part of that, havening and choosing love. So thank you so much for joining us. And, until next time.
Hey, hey, oh. It's all part of us. We can all choose love. It'll lift you up if you let it.